年前我嚟到三藩市嘅時候咧，咁我就認識咗好多，原來三藩市有好多嘅權利嘅喎，好多權利係好多非公民啊、移民咧都。
Okay, so do not adjust your televisions. That was the newest member of the San Francisco Election Commission, speaking in her native tongue. She is not a U.S. citizen yet. She is a Chinese citizen on the Election Commission in San Francisco, a commission which oversees local, state, and federal elections. And with that, we bring in John Dennis, who's chair of the Republican Party in San Francisco. John, I thought you could help us understand this, because I went through just to understand that this wasn't sort of a ceremonial role or an advisory role. The San Francisco.gov website, the election commissions, we oversee all public elections in San Francisco. So are we to understand that San Francisco has appointed a national citizen of another country, one of our geopolitical enemies, to oversee elections there?
Yeah, and in a shocking turn of events,
simple?
they didn't. Yeah, in shocking turn of events, they didn't invite a Republican to be on the election commission. There were no other non-citizens who could fill that role. No fair-minded person thinks that this is a reasonable thing.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So there's no doubt in my mind that the founding fathers of this country are rolling over in their graves at what this country has become, okay? Because it seems as if we have been successfully invaded thanks to the policies of the Democrat Party, okay? Diversity, equity, and inclusion has allowed the United States to be successfully invaded. Now, what do I mean by that? Because, people historically have thought that, hey, the United States is a hard country to invade because we have vast oceans surrounding us, protecting us from the rest of the world, okay? We're distant from everybody else, and I think, honestly, that is kind of part of the reason why the United States was allowed to become such a powerful country, is because we're basically invasion proof, okay? Or we were, okay? Like, for example, take the Middle East, okay? The reason why the Middle East is always at war, there's always conflict, is quite literally because they're in the middle of the world. They're surrounded by literally everybody, okay? You got Africa, you got Europe, you got Asia. Again, they're surrounded by everybody. So when you're surrounded by everybody, you have to protect yourself on all sides, okay? You don't get the luxury of your enemies having to travel across, vast oceans in order to invade you. But geographically speaking, the United States does enjoy that luxury. So again, it will be hard for a country like Russia or China to wage war against the United States in a traditional way, because logistically it would just be a nightmare, right? It would be very, very, very difficult to do. However, they figured out a way around it, okay? And the way around it is taking advantage of Democrat policies and their ignorance, particularly when it comes to immigration, okay? And our worshiping of diversity, equity, and inclusion has allowed our country to become successfully invaded, okay? For example, with the border being open, soft on border policies, allowing other people into this country who we don't know much about, okay? We don't know where they're from. We don't have the information that we need to know why they're here or what they're up to. And what makes it extremely difficult is that unlike countries like Russia or China, that has a largely homogeneous population, no. The United States, unfortunately, right, because of our diversity, equity, and inclusion, we have a heterogeneous population, okay? And the Democrats want to make it less white. So it becomes hard to recognize who's the enemy and who's not enemy, okay? If you go to a place like China, they're going to know instantly, hey, this guy ain't from here, right? You don't look like us, okay? We need to keep an eye out for you, okay? You're from somewhere else. You are a foreigner. And this is also important when it comes to keeping some type of heterogeneity when it comes to culture and ideology as well, too. Like, for example, in China, right, everybody knows how messed up it is that, China is treating the Uyghur Muslim population the way that they are. But the reason why, or part of the reasons why, in my opinion, is because they don't want to allow Islam to spread in their society, because communism is godless, and for the most part, China is a pretty godless nation, and that is important for keeping their ideology and their culture strong, okay? It doesn't allow the invasion of outside cultural forces and ideologies to come in and to overthrow the current regime. However, the United States, it's damn near impossible to tell who's a foreigner, okay, who's from here, who's not from here, because, again, our society is heterogeneous racially and culturally, and we're all seeing the result of that. And I'm not necessarily saying that that's all a bad thing, but it's most certainly not all a good thing, okay? When people want to talk about diversity for the sake of diversity as if diversity is objectively good no matter what, that's not true, right? Like anything in life, they are pros and cons to certain, policies, okay? And when you talk about diversity, the con is that, yeah, you allow the invasion of outside influences that can be used to influence a country from within and to basically change a country, right? That's what's happening to the United States, and we're changing for the worse. And the smart people in China and Russia and across the world have figured that out, that hey, we don't really actually have to launch traditional war against the United States in order to take down this country. No, we could just do so from within, okay? We could send our people to their border and have them come in under their soft immigration policies and just operate like that, right? And that's basically what they have done, okay? Because as you can see, San Francisco has now allowed a Chinese national to be the head of their elections, to oversee their elections, even though this person is not a citizen, okay? It looks like she doesn't even speak English, okay? She doesn't speak English. And they have allowed her to oversee their elections, okay? Because we know that ultimately Democrats are trying to allow illegals or non-citizens to vote. This is what they want, okay? This is what they want. And you have foreign governments seemingly taking advantage of these policies and basically dismantling our country from within. That's what's happening. So now we got to talk about this story about New York, a city that tried to allow non-citizens to vote. And thank God that the courts have ruled that this is unconstitutional. Okay, so this is being struck down. But stories like this show you everything that you need to know about the Democrat agenda and what they really want for this country, which is chaos and destruction. And allowing non-citizens to vote is a path towards that, because you're allowing foreign countries to exercise control and power within your country, okay? This is an easy way for some foreign government to basically try to overthrow the United States from within by getting their people elected here, okay? There's so many things wrong with this. But yeah, Democrats are spending time pointing fingers at Trump, talking about he's a puppet of Putin, right? He's a Manchurian candidate, when these people are quite literally fighting to allow Manchurian candidates to get elected in this country. And it's sickening. It really is. So without further ado, let's actually watch this news clip to learn more about this this court shutting down this effort from Democrats to overthrow this country.
Well, a big ruling tonight from a New York State appeals court about a New York City law that would have let non-citizens vote in local elections.
All right, the court has now ruled that law unconstitutional. Fox 5 Stephanie Bertini live in the newsroom with more tonight. Stephanie.
The law is very controversial, and it has been ever since it was approved by City Council several years back. The controversial local law, which was approved by the New York City Council in 2021, was meant to allow lawful permanent residents and persons authorized to work in the United States in New York City to participate in municipal elections.
Again, what is a lawful permanent resident, right? What is a lawful permanent resident? That is the question, okay? Because they say, oh, well, we're not trying to allow illegals to vote. We're just trying to allow lawful permanent residents, okay? But see, here's the thing. These people that are coming to the country claiming asylum, eventually they are elevated to lawful permanent resident status, okay? Eventually that's what they're going to get. So again, if you have a situation like we have right now where Joe Biden's just letting all these people into the country because he's essentially allowing anybody to come to the border and claim asylum. If they come to the border and say, I'm hungry, okay, I want something to eat, right? They're going to let them in the country and say they're asylum seekers, right? That's what's happening, okay? So we all know they're here illegally. They're not real asylum seekers, okay? That, they're just trying to get into the country. They're illegal immigrants. But again, they're going to be eventually given the status of lawful permanent resident, which under this New York, law or whatever, they would be eventually allowed to vote, right? They'd be eventually allowed to vote. They don't even have to be citizens. And they're coming to the country illegally, right? They're taking advantage of our current immigration laws that, Biden is refusing to enforce in a way that actually really makes sense. And then eventually, they're going to be allowed to vote. And that's what Democrats want. If you think it's a coincidence that Democrats are going out of their way to try to take care of these people and to do more for these people than American citizens, this is their future voter base. This is their future labor class. This is good for big business, okay? This is why they're begging for Biden to give the illegals work permits, okay? So that they can go ahead and start working and start taking these jobs, and they can go ahead and get the grand plan started, which is to have these people work, okay? Bring down the cost of wages and things like that, and also to help Democrats accumulate power by taking care of and then making these people lifetime Democrat Party voters, right? And some of these Democrats, I'm convinced are, working on behalf of foreign countries, because you're essentially allowing people from all over the globe to come into this country, people coming from places like China. Okay, China can easily send one of their own agents to infiltrate this country. Very easily, based on our soft border policies. It's insane. It's absolutely insane.
Republican lawmakers sued to prevent it from taking effect. Today, the New York State Supreme Court Second Appellate Division ruled against it. New York City Council member Joanna Riola is celebrating what she calls a win.
I was against it from the start because the Constitution of this state clearly states that any voting, the right of voting, is for American citizens. So once I was elected and this opportunity came to sign on to the lawsuit to overturn this law, I was right there for it.
The executive director of the New York Immigration Coalition quoted saying, "Immigrant New Yorkers deserve a say in how their local government functions and spends their tax money, and we remain committed to ensuring the expansion of voting rights." The city law department says it's evaluating its next steps. There could be an appeal. Susan Lerner from government watchdog organization Common Cause New York says the legal fight probably isn't over and thinks it could go either way.
Originally, the Staten Island Supreme Court said, nope, the state constitution says only citizens can vote. That means citizens of the United States. The city and the organizations that intervened argued, wait a second, it doesn't say citizens of the United States. It's up to New York City to decide who its eligible citizens are.
Staten Island Borough President Vito Fossella, the first named in the lawsuit against the city, issued this statement after today's ruling. Fortunately, common sense prevails in New York. Only citizens can vote in our local elections. It is simply irresponsible and nonsensical to extend this right to non-citizens.
Yeah, well, see, this is the problem with characterizing voting as a right, because voting is not a right. Voting is a privilege, okay? It's a privilege, okay? It's not a right. When you say it's a right, again, this is the type of argument that they use to extend it to, well, everybody should, right? Everybody should be able to vote. If you're living here, if voting is a right, then you should be able to vote. Even if you're not a citizen, it's like, no. That's not how it works. Voting is a privilege, and it should be treated as such, and it should not be extended to anybody except American citizens. And even then, I think we need to have more restrictions on it, right? I think we need to definitely start restricting even some citizens in regards to their ability to vote, because clearly when you look at cities like New York and Chicago, San Francisco, Oakland, clearly they don't really understand how to exercise this right in a way that actually really makes sense, okay? Or this privilege in a way that makes sense. Clearly these people don't know how to vote because what they're voting for is their own destruction, right? I mean, essentially they voted for this, okay? Because the people they voted into the city council, these are the people that, put this into action, right, to allow non-citizens to vote. Again, these people literally voted to have people put in the office that will then go on to vote to dilute their vote, right? That's how silly these people are, okay? And, you can't really blame anybody but the voters, because this is what they voted for.
Because it is probable we could see an appeal, we will, of course, keep following this developing story. Back to you two.
Yeah, this is insane. It's insanity that we have this happen in our country. I think some of these Democrats are working on behalf of the Chinese party, right? The CCP, because this is exactly what they want. This is exactly what they want. Do you think China would allow an American to come in to their country and to start holding offices and, getting elected and stuff like that? I don't think so, right? I don't think so. I don't think they're allowing that, okay? I don't think they're allowing that, because they have enough common sense to recognize how that can be weaponized against them to try to overthrow their own country from within. But here in the United States, we don't have that type of common sense, okay? We have a whole party that is quite literally trying to destroy this country, and it's really sad. And one of the main ways they're trying to do it is through allowing illegals into this country and then allowing them to hold positions of power, allowing them to be police officers, allowing them to, get positions that oversee elections, allowing them to vote. This is insanity, man. It really is. The Democrat Party is, I mean, they're in opposition to this country. They're actually really working against the best interests of this country. I think that they've been taken over by a foreign interest, right? I really do believe that at this point. That's the only explanation for this. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black Assertive Perspective. Peace.